And we're off. We are.
Ooh,
Yeah.
like a rocket,
Yeah.
like a dick rocket.
Just stuck on the
Artemis.
dicks.
Yeah. Oh, I might as well say it now. I wanted to tell you on, or just ask you on air if you saw the latest Artemis 2 video, and then we'll move on from that nonsense. But
I did not know.
so the cock, the female cock that was on the.
Yeah.
So last week, right, we showed the video of her walking around. That was the less than 24 hours after they landed, walking around on stage, answering questions, and then, right, had them. Well, this week, I guess, because some people pointed out that supposedly the amount of time you're up there for in zero gravity, you need that much time to get kind of used to it.
Okay.
When you get back. So people were saying, like, how come they're all moving around so well? And wouldn't that a voyage have affected them? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people started questioning that. And then 2 days ago, they released like a 15-second snippet video of her rehab. And it's her walking, doing rehab, they say, with her. And she can barely walk. She has her eyes closed and she's falling over like this and that and kind of smiling. It's so fake. If we didn't convince you on our last episode, which we may not have because we're goofs.
Yeah.
But if we didn't convince you, watch that video. You'll be convinced that it's all fake.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What a tard.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So today's show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Moving on.
We should say the show, the Eh-Soteric Archives. We are back. I feel like, yeah. I don't even know what the point of doing intros is, but
I'm Mike.
I'm Andrew.
Welcome to the Eh-Soteric Archive.
Yes. So yeah, we're gonna stick with the space vibe somewhat today. And it's gonna be a tangled web that we weave today. It's gonna take some, bear with us. I did not expect when doing the planning for this episode and the research for it to kind of like take this many ups and downs and zigzag this much. So I have a very, very confuddled, is that a word? Confuddled?
It is now.
Outline here that we're gonna work through. And we'll give her.
And it is a tangled web, but we're not practicing to deceive.
No.
Yes.
No.
Weaving spiders are not welcome here either.
No, there's a lot of questions that are going to be asked. There's a lot of, I'm unsure. This research actually kind of threw me for a loop because I thought I was pretty concrete in some of my opinions with this stuff, and it sort of opened up some doors for me. So
yes, because you mentioned like you chose the topic for this week, and when you sent me the kind of the pre-outline, and you mentioned it would be about Blue Beam and kind of going on I was like, I don't need to do much research on this.
Yeah.
I know lots about it, have lots of opinions, you know what I mean? But then I was like, I should just look into a couple things, and exactly what you said. I couldn't believe just looking into the history of Blue Beam, which we'll get into and where it comes from. Like even that is a long ass story.
Yeah.
Right. And there are a lot of things that seem to be tying into it. So why don't you take her from there?
Yeah. So, so anyone that's like familiar with the conspiracy world has obviously come across Project Blue Beam at some point or the other. And like I've kind of tossed it around wondering, I figured if there was going to be some sort of alien invasion, it would likely be faked because most things in this world are. I was of the general belief that most UFO sightings and all that have been just military tech. That was, to me, made the most sense, that it's like, we're just experimenting with anti-gravitic technology, portals, not to say that there isn't some sort of interdimensional thing happening as well, but yeah, portals, energy, plasma,
time travelers, future selves coming back. You'd even consider that one.
Yeah. But all in all, more of just like a military operation kind of thing. And that's kind of what Blue Beam falls under is, it's going to be it's this big conspiracy that, if you're not familiar, it's that they're going to fake an alien invasion using, like holographics and things like that,
Mhm.
basically just like freak everyone the fuck out. And
Yeah, in a bit, I think we'll get into what he actually said it was going to be, but yeah, that is definitely the gist of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
but in in researching this, I didn't also realize that the whole concept for it was actually created or was brought forth by a Canadian dude.
Mhm.
So this Serge Monsat, is that's his name?
Monast.
Monast. It's my dyslexia there. Monast.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, he brought this idea to light in it was 1994. Although a lot, it's kind of up for debate. So he started writing about it in '94, but it didn't actually like wasn't didn't hit a lot of the mainstream like eyes until '96. Like either right before or right after he died.
Well, so it's hard to it's hard to find out any real information about him other than the last couple years of his life. Like you can read some of the other stuff he penned because he was an author before and then turned into a conspiracy theorist
Mhm.
in the early 90s. But from what I read, I actually would say it's even later than that. I thought it's hard to find any reference to Blue Beam. I think they said it was like a Ken Adanachi or Ken Adachi who ended up taking over for kind of Serge Monast's work, I guess, after he died. He's the first person who talks about it, and that isn't until like early 2000, like
Hmm.
mid 2000.
Okay.
So he says this in 94, and it was like a newsletter type alternate, you know what I mean? Like conspiracy kind of, and it was at the beginning of the internet. Like you can tell when you read it, he throws links in for people to go see stuff. He wrote this like with computers in mind and the internet in mind,
Yeah.
but no one really talked about it or picked it up or anything for 15 years.
Yeah.
10 years to be safe, but 15 years for sure. But it definitely seems since then that it's been you know, Project Bluebeam, most people know what it is.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It's kind of like it's like conspiracy 101 at this point. And,
Mhm.
um so yeah, I don't know if we want to break down sort of his initial take on what it was going to be, but like the interesting thing is we'll kind of start at the beginning and then make our way to where we're at today
Mhm.
and what's kind of happening with these missing scientists and even we're going to dive into stuff like MH370, things like that that we feel kind of tie in there. So that's where this like tangled web kind of comes from. It's going to be a lot of zigzagging and stuff. So
And at the end, try to get to what we both think is going on and what will happen
yeah,
with this. Because it's the fact that everyone's talking about it, right? That we know how that works in conspiracy land
yeah,
is it gets talked about for a long time and then it becomes true in fact and then we talk about how we were right about it.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And why didn't we see it coming? And this is this could be a good example of that. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, well, no, I was just gonna say, and the reason it's sort of like, I didn't because our last episode was sort of that, space is fake, NASA's faking everything, it's all theater and stuff, and that plays into this. But um, there's also this like, depopulation agenda and this like kind of scary stuff that goes in with it as well that I really hadn't considered.
Mhm. And there's a lot of Project Bluebeam things and things mentioned by Serge Monast that are all things we've went through in the last 10, 15, 20 years. Like it talks a lot about the deterioration of society and you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
things like that and control. He writes a lot about vaccines in the early 90s.
yeah,
Um, and in fact, I later want to talk about someone that influenced him, which is this gentleman named William Guy Carr. William Guy Carr in the late 40s and early 50s was talking about fluoride and it
okay,
being bad in the like, you know what I mean? There's a lot of that when you look through this Project Bluebeam that the gentlemen that are discussed, they had a lot of theories that flew under the radar as well as the Project Bluebeam one.
and
It's not
Carr also being a Canadian.
he was British citizen who moved to Canada and then yeah became a
And he was in the
Canadian.
military
Yeah, yeah.
and stuff. Yeah,
He
yeah,
was high up in the military, but yeah.
yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I don't know if you maybe want to break
Just
down.
start, yeah. So
Yeah.
on Serge Monast's kind of Project Bluebeam, what he said it was, not what we've turned it into. So the first step, he talks about it in multiple steps. There'll be these steps along the way to kind of get us to Project Bluebeam. And one of them is the one that we all think of when we think about that, the projection in the sky and blah, blah, blah. So he has here the first step in the NASA Blue Beam project concerns the breakdown of all archaeological knowledge. And I'm not going to read it all, but that just in a nutshell is what the first step is. So it's a breakdown of all archaeological knowledge. He says it's going to be through earthquakes that the elite and whatever, set off, like purposeful earthquakes that will unveil stuff. But I posit and say that if you look now, like they've found another Sphinx under the Sphinx, right?
Yeah.
With LiDAR techno, I don't think we need those earthquakes to put archaeological discoveries on their head. So that's the first step. Like the first step is what we've always known, like ripping that apart, right?
Yeah.
So to open the idea that, okay, maybe things are a little bit different.
Well, and they can do that just, even with just the narratives, right? The Tartaria stuff that we've gone over, that's part of it, right? Like making these ideas and these conversations more mainstream. Yeah.
He also, so something that's important, especially because of what's going on right now with like in Iran and like all of this talk today ties into everything that's going on. Another thing he says is in this step, he says the first preparation for the plan is for humanity because what they want to do is destroy the beliefs of all Christians and Muslims on the planet. Like they want a holy war. And that's the reason for doing this hoax is not hoax, sorry, for because I'm not saying that it's hoax, but we've been lied to. They've kept it from us about archaeological things, and they're going to reveal those lies to us and then say, well, your religion means nothing because of that.
Right.
Right. They want to shatter belief systems, essentially.
Which we've talked about before, this big Christian push that the world seems to be in right now. Even like this, if you're paying attention to the Coachella stuff at all, which the Justin Bieber like went up and then proclaimed that like Christ is king in front of everyone. And it's again, I'm not criticizing Christianity, but it's this weird narrative push to try and get people into camps. Get you have the Christians, and then with the war in Iran and stuff, you have people really backing sort of like Islam and that culture, and then you have the Zionist, the whole Jew thing, and then you have people. It's just this big fight amongst all of them, right? And even to the point of like the resurgence of like paganism and occultism in a large way too. You're really dividing people into camps, and what camp are you in?
And that's all by design, right? And that's by design to make us easier to conquer because we're so busy looking at the differences that we're not realizing how much we have in common versus the people we're fighting, right? Yeah. And so Serge Monast, on top of his Project Bluebeam, like little document, he wrote numerous other things, all in French. So you do have to get the translation. And they're all about this trying to keep us separated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like trying to do that to bring us to Project Bluebeam. Like
ironically, he was a Quebec separatist.
He was, yeah. But he was I think he was bigger on social credit as well. And I'll be honest, if I lived in Quebec and I was Quebecois, I would probably be a separatist as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just, yeah. We don't need to get into the separatism.
No, I just thought it was a kind of a funny thing to point out. But
so that was the first step. What I mentioned was this, archaeological discoveries being turned on their head, like, Karahan Tepe, Göbekli Tepe, all these different things that we're finding now, right? Kind of do that. They've definitely got me. That was one of the things that got me to start questioning everything again, was when that was happening. The second step in this Bluebeam thing is the big show in the sky. So that will be the second step. There'll be a giant, I think he says it's, what does it say? The space show, the holographic images will be used in a simulation of the ending during which all nations will be shown scenes that will all be the fulfillment of that which they desire to verify the prophecies and adversary events. So I should have read that before I actually read that out loud. But it's basically, it's going to cause chaos. It's done to cause chaos.
Yeah.
He does it in a way or he says that it's going to be gods or in different places that people live. And then in 1994, when he wrote this, he said it like if you lived somewhere where being a Hindu was the norm or the majority, that's what they would see. in a Christian country, they would see this. In a Muslim country, they would see Muhammad.
Yeah.
That sort of idea. Um, and then after that, the Antichrist would come and say, ha, this was all fake. This was all whatever done by me. Now follow me in this new one world religion, because none of your religions were actually, were all lied to about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Follow me into this new world. And that's kind of the next step. So that's part of
Sort
Bluebeam
of
as well.
one big humiliation ritual for everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like get them to fall for the show and then admit that it was a show.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have my theories. We'll get into it later, but I have my theories around because I know, like you said, based regionally on like their, um, their religious standings and what they would see. And I have my theories when we get into sort of the geoengineering and biowarfare
Mm-hmm.
end of it, how I think they might actually play this out in a different way. And yeah, David Icke kind of backs it up as well. But yeah, I kind of something clicked last night when I was reading through stuff where I was like, oh, I actually, yeah.
It
And it has to do with putting people in camps, right? It totally has to do with that. So
100% agree. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, he says these will be so the blue beam images will be projected from satellites onto the sodium layer about 60 miles above Earth. We see tests every once in a while, but they are called UFOs and flying saucer sightings. So that's where he stands on that. He's actually quite clear. I don't think he believes all UFOs are fake and us,
Okay.
our tech.
Yeah.
The result of these deliberately staged events will be to show the world the new Christ, the new Messiah, which he calls Matria, for the immediate implementation of the new world religion. So that's, you know what I mean? Another part of it. He mentions some rapture ideas. Like he actually thinks that there will be, like in a rapture, like beams, tractor beams that go down and actually pull people up
Okay.
to ships, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Could explain
Scare
some of the missing scientists.
could.
Um, so, and the another point he makes is that the Blue Beam Project will pretend to be the universal fulfillment of prophecies of old, right? So it's this going back to biblical kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that is that, and then we get to the third step in a second. Here, there we go. So the third step, which kind of what you were just I think this is what you were talking about, is going to be in his. This is in his document. He says it'll be called the telepathic electronic two-way communication.
Mm-hmm.
So that's essentially getting into people's minds. So it's going to be all done telepathically, and this is what the original Project Bluebeam, he says it will be. It will be in the different gods' voices will be appearing in your head as thought or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you have ideas of how that could.
Well, yeah. So I mean, if you look into MK Ultra stuff and whatever, there's definitely been experiments with voice to skull technology and
Mhm.
dental implants that are basically acting as transmitters, and then they can use that to implant thoughts and
Mhm.
basically to make people go crazy was the idea behind it. And sort of like trigger them kind of thing. But there's obviously there's with the jab rollout that happened 2021 there's been a lot of theories behind that in the sense of like obviously we know that there's been health issues related to that. And I think that might just be sort of like a byproduct of injecting foreign poison into your body. Go
Yeah.
figure.
Your body's reaction to it.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
but I've always like kind of had my doubts of that actually being sort of the end goal with it.
Mhm.
Just because of the way it was rolled out, like I don't think that seems almost like a primitive approach in my sense is to just like poison people, right? And depopulate the earth that way. I think that there was something a little more nefarious at play.
Which is crazy because that's nefarious enough on its own.
Yeah,
But
yeah, and
yeah, I agree with you. There was something more. It wasn't just what we were seeing, right? There was something more to it.
so, and we've all heard the theories surrounding, graphene,
Mhm.
and the MAC addresses that are showing up on people that have these shots and whatever. So that, so yeah, my thought with that is that with the graphene being in there, that like creating human transmitters, turning people into transmitters to receive whatever they need, whatever it is they're trying to do. And I wasn't sure necessarily if it was like they could trigger an immune response or trigger something in the body, like, there's the heart attack gun theory, right? Where maybe it's a way to like transmit that and cause heart issues and trigger those. And that might be the case, right? There's a lot of doctors and stuff out there that do think that there is an element to that. Um, but it also plays in with the geoengineering that's going on where they're spraying all these, aluminum, barium and stuff in the sky, creating and working in tandem with things like HARP to create this like frequency attack on people.
Which causes the graphene to form different shapes, because it will form different shapes, right?
Yeah.
Under different frequencies. Yeah.
So
That's the theory, correct?
that's what I was thinking is like, okay, well, if we're turning people into transmitters or they're turning people into transmitters, then um what's to say that like that's not where this comes into play, where it's like, yeah, you just transmit that signal, that voice to skull doesn't need to be a dental implant anymore. It's flowing through their body, and you can target it based on people's religious beliefs, what camp they're in, whether they believe in aliens, because maybe it is an alien thing that they project, that some people are seeing, that some people are seeing second coming of Christ, some people are seeing, the just like a asteroids, like I've said in the past too, right? Some cataclysmic event. And how would they know who believes what? Well, they've allowed everyone to talk about this shit nonstop for the last 5 years.
They have a pretty good idea of what they all think about things.
Exactly. You're already placed in that camp algorithmically. So they really know what to target where. And yeah, that was my thought with it. And then I stumbled across this Dr. Tao Braun, and he seems to think, this is his Substack article. I'll just kind of read it. And because this is sort of about, it plays into it. It doesn't necessarily like lean into the blue beams specific stuff, but it's like more about this like kill switch.
So a lot of what Serge, even though it's not like, it is, I think it's related to this, because Serge Monast talks a lot about vaccines and how they're going to use it. And he also talks a lot about transhumanism and the you know what I mean? The merging of human mind and computer technology. And this, I think, plays right into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this Dr. Tao Braun, he says, we are heading towards a mass die-off. The academic and pharmaceutical insider that has correctly predicted this is Geert Vanden Bosch. That's, I think, how you pronounce it. However, he is incorrect on mechanism. It's not going to be caused by a mutating SARS-CoV-2 virus, because that doesn't exist. Viruses don't exist. They injected a 19 nucleotide kill switch into billions of people. 3 ways to trigger the kill switch. 1, EMF around 100 gigahertz. 2, acoustic EMF, the Frey effect. And I think that's where the graphene stuff kind of comes into play, because it's changes the shape of it and whatever, right? And then geoengineering, and then he has in brackets sun dimming. The combination is deadly. Switch awakens primitive copper-resistant fungi, leading to overgrowth. Resilient toxin producing biofilm forms. Gram-negative bacteria thrive and kill off gram-positive bacteria like bifidobacterium.
That is a crazy word.
That is, yeah. Again, like I'm not in the medical world at all, so this is me like trying to make sense of this. Natural biowarfare starts. Bacteria and fungi in a full war. Parasites love it. It means resources. So
yeah, right. And you need balance everywhere, especially in your gut.
Yeah.
And you can't have all good. You don't want all good bacteria or all bad bacteria. Do you not? You want a kind of a mix.
Yeah.
Correct, right? Yeah.
So this is where like this is the brain stuff here. Is netosis is the body's answer. So clotting begins. Then the amyloids. Then the worst prions. So that's like basically the zombie disease, right? That's like
prion disease.
Yeah. Triple threat of spike protein, hibernation, torpor. Anyways, I'm not going to go through all of this, but this is sort of the breakdown of of the human body and the mind. And so if you slap this in with the geoengineering part, he also says demand, and one way to stop this is like to demand an end to geoengineering proposed projects, stop 6G research and development. So this kind of plays into David Icke's theory as well with the graphene and what he thinks. Um, and the reason I brought this guy up, because obviously this guy is taking more of like the immune response approach, and like I said, I think that that is part of it because that's, you're injecting something foreign into your body. But I also think that, yeah, like David Icke's thing with is that we've turned these people into transmitters.
And
And
yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah.
and with the breakdown of, with something like prion disease or prion, however you pronounce it, it's basically like, creating holes and craters in the brain, and it's breaking down your ability to like reason.
Mm-hmm.
It breaks down your ability to like kind of think for yourself, honestly.
It would prime you for something like the third step to Bluebeam, right? So it
Yeah.
would prime you to the voices in your head,
Yeah.
which you didn't mention, but that's stuff that like that's technology that they worked on through MK Ultra, right? That's technology, that's 50s and 60s technology
Yeah.
that they've proven they can do. What you're talking about now is even further. And what David Icke talks about too, I believe, is there are people who believe they can send DNA now through, I'm not joking, like, so it's subliminally sent DNA through digital infrastructure, I guess would be the best way to describe it.
Huh.
Like, so they can mess with, like, literally mess somehow getting it in your head. And I don't know the process by how this works or whatever, but it's quite crazy. He used the example, and it's happened to me many times where have you been thinking about something not around any technology, not around, you know what I mean? Like out in a walk and a thought pops in your head, you think about it for like half an hour and you break it down and whatever. And then you get back and you go to call your wife and flip, or you're waiting for something and you turn on the internet and the first thing you see is, or on Twitter, the first thing you see is an article about what you just
Yeah.
thought about.
Yeah.
Like, how has that happened?
Yeah.
This is his explanation for how that happens.
Yeah, no,
Right.
totally. And that's kind of what I was getting at with it is like, yeah, I think that there's definitely this like convergence happening with all the shit they're spraying in the sky that's allowing them to like utilize this frequency bio warfare stuff and interact with the human body.
Mm-hmm.
And those that have this graphene in them are primed to be able to like as soon as they ramp it up, they can basically do whatever they want. You're a remote control car at that point.
Which all of us could be at this point, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's not to say, like obviously, I didn't get those shots, but I eat food from the grocery store. I breathe the air outside. I
Yeah.
drink water. Like there's a chance that it's been kind of put in all of us to varying degrees over the last however long.
So if just while you're looking for this ties into what you just said, and it's in the Project Bluebeam, like I guess manifesto, we can call it, because everyone thinks he's crazy anyway, which I don't, but all right, so I'll just read it real quick here. It says, in the December 1980 edition of the U.S. Army Journal, so that's 1980, a long time ago, called the Military Review, a column by Lieutenant Colonel John B. Alexander entitled "The New Mental Battlefield, Beam Me Up, Spock," provides further insight into the technical capabilities at the disposal of the controller. He writes, and this is all in quotes, several examples will demonstrate areas in which progress have been made. The transference of energy from one organism to another, the ability to heal or to cause disease to be transmitted over a distance, thus inducing illness or death from no apparent cause. Telepathic behavior modification, which includes the ability to induce hypnotic states up to a distance of 1,000 kilometers away, have been reported. So this is in the 80s. They were trying this, and with success.
Yeah.
Right. The use of telepathic hypnosis also holds great potential. This capability could allow agents to be deeply planted with no conscious knowledge of their programming. In movie terms, the Manchurian Candidate lives and does not even require a telephone call. Think about everything that's went on in the last couple of years, and people saying, Manchurian candidate this and whatever fits with that. Sorry, I'll just stop there. But to prove that this was something discussed a long time ago.
Yeah.
And you don't think that when they found this out, that they're like, okay, well, how do we fine tune this? Right? Like, how do
Yeah.
we, to get everyone, and I think what you're saying is the way.
Yeah, and I think like we said, I think they're kind of coming at it from all angles. They have to prime people. They have to prime their mind. They have to prime their bodies for it. They have to prime the sky to be able to, whether it's, whether the holographic element of it is part of it, or whether they even need to do that if it's this voice to skull type thing where they can just project it internally.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, doesn't necessarily need to be a hologram in the sky if your mind is actually just projecting that, because we project our own reality.
So you see what you see anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, then that technology may not have been something that he would have considered at the time, right? Because that's the one thing I will say about the Project Bluebeam. He says it comes from NASA. There's no one knows where it came from. We discussed off camera before, but we can bring it up now, right? There's a few people, Christopher Knowles is one of them, who suggested that Serge Monast was given this to sully the waters or muddy, you know what I mean? Like, basically it's a straw man argument.
Yeah, I mean, and Chris Knowles, like, I'm a fan of Chris Knowles. I like a lot of his work, but so this is an article from Secret Sun back in 2010. And he thinks Project Bluebeam is just a hoax. It's just, to lead people astray kind of thing, and to distract them from, the power structure that's actually going on, which, fair enough. That's a fair assumption. That's a fair thing to bring up. And as recent as 2024, I saw Chris Knowles was still holding onto that viewpoint. So,
but if you look into Serge Monast a little bit, you see that he's not just a one-trick pony. It's not just Project Bluebeam. Like, he is into everything and all the same. He talks about stuff in the 90s that no one talked about for 10 or 15 years that's happening now.
yeah.
Right. People started talking, like David Icke, and people started talking about it in the early 2000, like late 90s. This guy already talked about it and died possibly for it.
And he died of a heart attack, by the way. That's all.
Yeah. So he wrote, when you mentioned the heart attack gun, he mentions a certain study where they, in this Bluebeam manifest, about where they kill a mouse with like, they're able to kill a mouse remotely by stopping its heart using frequency.
That's this Dr. Tao Braun that I brought up before. That's exactly what he's talking about in this. He even references an experiment.
I think it's the same study, I bet.
Oh yeah, probably using mice. Yeah, it's yeah.
So this story about Serge Monast's death, and there is one more step that he has that I want to bring up in a sec, because it'll tie into quantum computing, I think.
Well, so and this is the one thing I want to bring up about Chris Knowles' take on this is he's very heavily focused. Like, he really is focused on the alien aspect of it. It's all about UFOs. It's all about, that's why it's not real, is because UFOs are fake.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically like, if his take, and this is author Richard Dolan, so he references Richard Dolan, author of UFOs and the National Security State, basically saying that if they were gonna fake a UFO invasion, they would have done it already, because technology is too far advanced now that people aren't going to buy it, because AI exists and we know all this stuff now. It's just, if they would have done it, they would have done it on humanity in a more primitive state before we were had CGI and stuff,
like on September 11th of 2001.
Yeah.
Right, like, just saying. And that's, I don't know for sure, but I know that's a theory that I've heard about, that was a hologram.
Yeah.
Right. And it was timed, done in such a way in front of so many people, you can't, like the moon landing, right? You can't, if you don't agree with it, you're crazy, because it happened. We all saw it. It happened.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it anyway.
So yeah, if anyone wants to look it up, Chris Knowles, like his Secret Sun article basically is referencing Richard Dolan's essay entitled Project Bluebeam Countdown, Don't Bet on It.
I I love Christopher Knowles, but if he read more into Serge Monast, he would have seen that how religious he is. And most of Project Bluebeam concerns religion, not aliens. Like aliens are secondary to it. And he doesn't even he calls them supernatural, alien, and off-world in brackets, kind of lumping them all in together. Because I don't think Serge Monast actually believed in aliens either. He believes in God and the devil and those things. I think he
Well, and that's where I think Chris Knowles' take like is a little skewed, because he also like he says that it was basically information fed to him from a bunch of Trekkie spooks who fed him this blue beam scenario, and that it's basically a bunch of Star Trek scripts that.
So, because I've heard that too, but I looked into that. So that's Gene Roddenberry, who he likes quoting a lot.
Yeah,
And I love Christopher Knowles. I hate doing this.
I know.
He does quote him a lot and talk about Gene Roddenberry. He wrote a script that never even got read for a movie based on the Blue Beam idea.
Yeah.
So it never got made. It never got out. So he's saying that that's what got fed to. Like, how would the Star Trekkies even know that?
Say regurgitated Star Trek scripts.
Yeah. Well, it could also be so Werner von Braun, because that's another. I was looking into like where did Serge Monast get these ideas, and after I get to the fourth step, I'll say where I thought he got them from. But Werner von Braun also talked about this at length, supposedly with his assistant. There's like videotapes of him talking about Project Bluebeam.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where he got it from, not Star Trek. Not everyone likes Star Trek, Chris Knowles.
Yeah,
Buddy.
I
hate
Star Trek.
Me as well. Yeah. And when you're talking about why didn't they do it sooner, in Project Bluebeam, he said, or not, sorry, not Project Bluebeam. There's another manifesto that he writes called the Toronto Files 666, which we don't have to get into. But part of that is him saying that they were going to do Project Bluebeam in the early 80s in 1983.
Okay.
But we weren't ready yet. Like society wasn't ready yet. And if you look then, that was right in the middle of all the Star Wars. That was right when E.T. was released, right? Like that was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I think had been out for 5 years, but still, fresh in the memory of people.
Yeah.
There's the Starman movie. There was what's that movie? The Thing was done in 83 or 84, right? And now it's the same thing because we have this Steven Spielberg movie coming out, and I think that's why everyone's talking about it. But
yeah.
So should I move to the fourth step?
Yes.
Fourth step. So this is directly from him. Universal supernatural manifestations via electronics. So this is written in 94, right? It connects to exactly what you just said. And he says the fourth step concerns the universal supernatural manifestation with electronic means. It contains 3 different orientations. So basically, it'll be the last step. One is to make it look like there's an off-world invasion, which we've mentioned. The second will appear to Christians like it's the rapture. And then the third will kind of be a mix of electronic and supernatural forces. And the waves that they will use will allow these supernatural forces to travel through optical fibers and the like, and coaxial cables and phone lines. And so, and this is something that David Icke mentions too, right? I think it goes to what I said and to what you said. And it gets us to this whole quantum computing thing that I wanted to mention when you showed me where all the clusters of sightings were.
Yeah.
This is, to me, this is using technology to bring them in. Right? Let's bring in the demons, or let's, talk to these other dimensions. And we've mentioned on that one show, like the show we did about Geordie Rose, like he's mentioned that before.
Yeah.
And right now, Mia Farrow and Frank Sinatra's son, Woody Allen's son, is doing an expose in New York Post about Sam Altman saying the exact same thing on video, like saying that is the purpose of OpenAI.
Yeah.
Is to summon, right? And that's the fourth step.
Yeah.
He also then goes on, and we don't have to go, but another party talks about cashing out as part of it as well. So cashing out, getting rid of cash is part of Project Bluebeam, because if people have no money, you know what I mean? They won't be able to do anything. They'll have to stay in one spot. But
yeah.
So that quantum computing, that was, when you showed me that was pretty nuts. The
So this is, and I can maybe bring this up. So there's this site and app. It's called Enigma, and it basically just documents all UFO sightings across. I think this is just North America was what I found, but I'm pretty sure they do have a section for like other countries as well. But
Because we're both of the belief that they're ramping up, correct? So
yes,
that's why we're
yeah,
doing this episode. We think they're going to start really leaning in on the blue beam stuff. And the fact that things are starting to show up in real, not real, I shouldn't say real, in uh what the boomers watch.
hmm
You know what I mean? Like it's showing up in mainstream media, some of these conversations, and that needs to happen, in my opinion, for Blue Beam to work the way they want it to work. They can get us as ready for it as we want, but we may not even believe it. They need that crowd to buy in. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
The people who own the couple of houses, don't work, don't whatever, and are sitting in their backyard sipping Chardonnay on a Tuesday afternoon, who see something, they need them to believe it's an alien,
exactly.
because they won't believe it if they hear it from you or me,
No,
right?
no,
They need
yeah,
CBC to show it,
yeah.
or the Sun, or you know what I mean? Like they need someone somewhere to show it for them to be it to be believable.
So this was interesting to me. Like we're talking the clusters, right? So this is, and this sort of just like an easy way to kind of like to compare the two and to show that like there is a high likelihood that what we're seeing is, just military tech.
Hmm.
Um, which so this is the UFO sightings in Canada, and there's clusters around, you can see if we
Well, is that just Canada, or will that go? That goes to the U.S. too, right?
yeah, if I zoom out, it'll go to the US as well.
Because I do, when we did that D Wave episode, there is a large spike of sightings around anywhere where there's a quantum computer.
Yeah.
Like an insane spike. It's not.
And so I didn't do that crossover. I should have done that crossover map as well, but this is what I'm going to show is basically the crossover between like these clusters
Yeah.
here and here and here and here in comparison to where the major like military and air force bases are in Canada. So we can see, down Vancouver, Victoria area,
Hmm.
see sort of Edmonton, northern.
It's Cold Lake, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Cold Lake's more kind of over here, but and then yeah, Saskatchewan, we have southern Manitoba, which is, fair. There's major military bases there. So these are, pretty significant clusters. And then if you compare that to a map of where
Huh.
the military bases are,
All the same.
pretty much all the same,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
With the exception of Saskatchewan, that one was a bit of an anomaly, but all the other ones pretty well line up.
Because it said on there that Ottawa, if did I read that correctly? It says that Ottawa has the most sightings.
Yeah, this is, and I think this is just recent.
So this is like recent. So there's a big spat of sightings
Yeah,
in the Ottawa area. And that's been, so when we did the Project Magnet, right? That's the, not Project Magnet, the Shag Harbor incident. We talked about Project Magnet.
yeah,
They believed there was a corridor in that Ottawa kind of St. Lawrence area.
yeah.
Um, they said they believed it was a corridor, but I think it was all testing as well. That's where they tested like the Avro arrow.
I mean, look at
Well,
over here,
and that's where there's a
Brunswick,
ton of
Nova
bases there,
Scotia,
right?
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking, and then we've discussed Maine and Vermont stuff as well, and look at where all these clusters are. So, anyways, I just thought that was really a really interesting comparison because it kind of,
It
what are the chances? Like,
So, because you've seen obviously lots of video by now, right? Different sightings.
yeah,
Both you and I have probably seen thousands of them. The one when it's a ship and they so kind of like how Shag Harbor is described and the Phoenix Lights, even like I remember seeing the Phoenix. I remember hearing about it on Coast to Coast Radio and then seeing the video like when it happened or just after it happened. It was kind of crazy, but it was a big giant ship, very Independence Day like what you would think, right?
yeah.
Those ones I think are all us. I really do think that. The ones though that I still am not sure about are those crazy tic-tacky orbs that they defy everything. Like I would think they're either an unmanned drone
So,
or to me that's consciousness. Sorry. And that's we see it as an orb because maybe you're seeing it with an open eye and an open mind, sorry, and it's whatever. But those are the ones that I have a hard time thinking are us.
So there, yeah, and I mean, there's been people that have, Kenneth R. Shoulders. He's was an experimental physicist. Worked basically with like drone, like microelectronics and drone technology and stuff. He has a ton of patents out there for like different aircraft and different drone designs, and this one for a single wing. This is kind of why I wanted to bring this up, because you said like they, these tic-tacky looking ones, or there's like the periscope looking ones. And I found this patent, which I thought was interesting, because this is kind of this very similar to what you're describing, which like, let's see if I can zoom in on this here. Like single wing, kind of neat. And this is like, yeah, kind of similar to what people have been seeing and describing. Then
similar to what was in the MH370 videos.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Which, yeah, I have something I want to play with that in a bit too. But the other thing I wanted to show was this recent video. So this was April 6th. And this, I can explain this one. This is like in a northern drilling rig in Canada, like north.
Oh, is this the one from Yukon?
Yeah,
I saw this one.
Yeah,
cool.
This
was on like mainstream media.
Yeah, so, and this is what I mean when I say like they're priming everyone for this stuff, right? Like this is shit that, like, 20 years ago they wouldn't have bothered putting this on the news or anything, because like it's just a bunch of,
or it would be on like a freak show kind of TV show, on at 1:30 in the morning, or
Discovery Channel, back when they actually did good stuff. But yeah, so this is interesting, and this, like, to me, again, this doesn't look mechanical to me. This looks more like orby.
Yep, these are the ones where I'm like, I don't know if that's us.
Yeah, so
I think it's consciousness.
What is that? What the f is that, bro?
And so at first glance, it almost looks like the moon in the sky.
Venus.
Or just like it's just a bright light, right? But when they zoom in, it has almost like a cloud type shape to it. And it's just like floating there. And it's moving. It's very obviously moving. Kind of looks like Pac-Man in the sky. And there's a point when another light actually emanates from it, like moves out from it.
Oh my god, bro, what is that?
I thought it was the moon, man. I don't know, man.
It's moving, dog.
I mean, this is in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's a clear sky. Like, you can see it's not like it's a cloudy, overcast night. It's a clear night.
Yeah. You can see everything.
You can see everything.
And they're in where they are. There's no light pollution.
No. And there you go. There's the light.
Yeah.
That comes out from it. Gets brighter.
Yeah. And then dims.
What the?
Flickers and kind of goes away. Yeah. So, I mean, and this stuff is happening more and more and more.
To me, and to the untrained eye, I'm watching that, and it looks like the big thing is there, and then the little thing is coming around to inspect it. That's, you know what I mean? That's what it looks like to me.
And very similar to sort of the MH370 thing, where it's like, these spinning orbs, and then this like flash, this portal kind of flash.
I have a lot of questions about MH370.
And nothing has captured my attention in the last like handful of years the way MH370 did.
Oh,
quite honestly.
That's what almost got me back into the game. Like, I was, you know what I mean? I was big JFK guy, and big 9/11 was an inside job guy. And then kind of sports ball took me away for a while, but the MH370, with that, I was obsessed with that.
Yeah. And I mean, Ashton Forbes, really brought a lot of the stuff to light, and we can, whatever. I know that he's had his like sketchiness over the last year and whatever with his support of Israel kind of out of nowhere. And And I know he's been on Candace Owens and he's been on these kind of big shows and he kind of again popped up out of nowhere. So this could all just be a plant. This could be a way to prime everyone. But the way he's sort of uncovered it in this, so he apparently received this letter from a whistleblower.
Yeah, Edward, and who he later identified. He later figured out who it was. And,
Yeah.
figured out that it was someone in the Navy. He did come out of nowhere, but it did. I remember like the day it just appeared on my feed, like him breaking it down and talking about this video, and this is MH370 disappearing. And for the next month, I was obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Because the thing, it was weird what happened, right? Like I remember when it disappeared, everything about that was weird. Where they searched was weird. How everything changed was weird. Do you know what I mean? Like the cargo, when you found out what the cargo was, it was weird. And then it was so their whole thing was that the pilot's Muslim, so for sure it was a suicide thing. Like, and that was it,
Yeah.
right? And everyone looked the other way. Let's go on to other stuff. And it never sat right with me then. And so when Ashton Forbes came out with all this stuff, and I think it's important to point out, I don't agree at all with his views on Israel, but we can't agree on everything with everyone. So this is an example of like, I don't think I necessarily would like the guy, but he knows more about that orb video and has looked into it more than anyone I've seen. And all the science is checked out so far in what he said, right?
Yeah. And I mean, granted, this was when he came out with all of it, it was pre-AI.
Yeah.
As far as like AI being everywhere. So
And he didn't get sent something. He found something on YouTube. I think that's what it was. Something got posted on YouTube that he noticed.
Yeah.
And then he started getting sent things once he started talking about it. But he skyrocketed. He went from like a nobody to like, you're right, he was everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And this again, this doesn't really play into like there's sort of two parts to this, right? There's the blue beam stuff that, we're trying to determine whether it's real or not. And then there's like the military tech and sort of the intent behind it is, and that's where I'm sort of trying to like square the circle with it is like, I believe now I do tend to think that the blue beam stuff is like that's sort of their end goal. I don't think I think it's obviously it's a hoax in that what's going to happen is not going to be real, but I don't think that that plan to do it is a hoax. I think that that's we're well on our way into these 4 steps.
Yeah.
But it's the intent as to like why, and obviously the one world government thing, but then with the MH370 stuff and this like the missing scientists that we'll get into and the up kind of the ramping up of these sightings, is like just a show, like a display of power,
Like a flex.
And this,
I've wondered that.
what's interesting about this whistleblower's letter is that that's basically what he's saying is like MH370 had like these Chinese, they were defectors that were trying to like steal American technology. And he doesn't even necessarily say that it's American technology because he says that like the deep state is nothing.
It was quantum computing parts, was it not?
Yeah, and like portal technology and stuff
and
like that.
Anti-gravitic technology, which is precisely the type of scientists that are disappearing.
Exactly. But this guy breaks it down where it's not like where everyone's focused on the deep state, and American military dominance and stuff, that there's like a faction that's like so much larger than that, that's controlled. And maybe that is, the cabal, the like Zionist kind of like
synagogue of Satan.
Yeah.
That's
let's call it that. But the idea is that it isn't actually this like global play, that there are, Russia and China want this technology. They want to be the ones to be controlling. So it's not, because when you think the one world government stuff and you look into this, it's like, well, they'd all have to be in on it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like all countries, it's the theater is globally. It's not just like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not just America playing this game. And yeah, so and his theory is, what he's saying is that like, yeah, China wanted this technology, thought they had pulled off this like monster mission to steal it, and that this, synagogue of Satan was like, go fuck yourself. We
We're
just
gonna
beat you at your own game.
and we're gonna take it and show you something at the same time.
Yeah.
I still have the questions I still have about MH370 is what, like, I think it's was it organic? Was the Ashton Forbes thing organic, or was that the beginning of disclosure? Like, was not the beginning of disclosure, but it was that a step in this? Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? To get people looking, and was it just a flex? Is it even real? Is it the Holy Grail? Like, some people think anti-gravity technology is legitimately the Holy Grail,
Mhm.
right? Or like the Ark of the Covenant or something to that effect, and they have that weapon. And but if they had to do all that, why would they need to do Project Bluebeam?
Well,
Do you know what I'm saying?
that's
Right?
just
Like,
it. Yeah.
yeah,
And with these missing scientists, so what's going on now is, like so far, if you don't know, there's 11 either dead or missing scientists that all have ties to either NASA or other like large laboratories dealing with nuclear technology, infrared technology, bioweaponry, pharmaceuticals. Like there's people that, and this is where the weird web kind of ties together, is like when I looked at this list of people, there's like someone for every single thing that we brought up today.
mhm,
There's someone for anti-gravitic stuff, there's someone for pharmaceuticals, there's someone for infrared, there's someone for just like communications,
mhm.
um
What
director of material processing, like
when you see too how they've disappeared and the stories, like, I haven't looked into all of them. Obviously, like the Amy, what's her name? Amy.
Amy Catherine Eskridge.
I remember 2 years ago when she disappeared. I remember when it happened. She was all coked up on a video, freaking out about this stuff and information that she had. And if I'm gone, I never would, like she says, I wouldn't suicide myself and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then she disappears, and that's how I believe that's the story is that she did it to herself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then that guy up there with the beard, he just disappeared, leaving his smokes on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of them left in weird circumstances. It's not like they went out to go to the store for milk,
Yeah.
didn't bring anything, and just never came back.
Yeah, it's Frank Mywell guide, top scientist detecting signs of alien life. Like, what a title. But like,
Yeah.
is it a whistleblower thing? Is this part of that flex where it's like, okay, like how if they're saying MH370 was the cabal basically being like, we beat you at your own game, is this a counterattack being like, well,
We're gonna
we're
take
offing your
them.
scientists? Like,
Yeah. Or we're taking them. They're not offing them. They're just taking them.
yeah,
They're MH370ing them and
yeah.
bringing them somewhere else. Yeah, are they using them to do Project Bluebeam, like to work on Project Bluebeam and work on something that's going to get people to buy into it? Um, yeah. What I was going to say, you mentioned about it would be really hard for the one world government to, I think, I believe in that is what's going on. And I do think that they're playing both sides and have for a long time. Like, I think they were playing both sides in World War I, World War II, the Civil War, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
the French Revolution, the beginning of the US when Canada was formed. I think there is a group of people, and they are in control of both sides, and that's how they steer everything, and that's how they continue to make their money and keep doing what they're doing. And I think they're demonic. I actually do think it has Lucifer and a demon at its can't believe I'm even saying this. I can't believe this is where we're at. But that is where I'm leaning the most heavily towards.
Yeah, the spot that I'm stuck at is that whether like remember when we talked to Joe and he said that it's a good chance that there's like several basically let's call them crime families, and they're all kind of vying for that top position. They're all just like infighting, trying to determine who's actually going to be running the cabal sort of
Mhm.
thing. And and that's where I'm unsure if like that's where we're at or if it's already been decided. Because like you do have, you have Trump with the QAnon stuff. You do still have like the CCP, like China really like pushing. China and Russia are working together in like weird ways, funding.
The US just allowed some Russian oil thing. Like, they all work together when it behooves them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And it's, and again, like I mean, obviously,
in Antarctica. Sorry for cutting you off.
no, it seems like they're all aware of the same end goal. They're all aware of like, okay, this is where this like crescendos, you know what I mean? But like, I don't necessarily believe that like the winner has been announced yet. And that's where this might all fall apart on them, right?
Who's going to be in control kind of thing? Like
Yeah.
I think they're all figureheads, man. Like, I think they're all figureheads and they're all actors in a sense, and they all have a part to play. Like, I don't, I really do think it is a demonic force that's controlling them. I really, truly do. And I think because of that, there will never be any of them in power or in charge the way that we're probably discussing right now, because they all have their parts to play, and not many of them really know what's going on. They just know that they're getting their pleasure centers fed and their wallets filled, and they're happy with that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because humans can be pretty gross.
For sure.
And I think that there is a demon that is preying on that and has been for a long time.
And this is where I want to sidestep a little bit, is to get into the sort of like demonic kind of like tie it in with the sort of new age movement. And so OpenAI, for example, one of their big, Iran was threatening to go after their big data center, quantum computing center in UAE called Stargate. And then and I started looking into it, and there's obviously there's a sort of new age, if you've looked into what people believe with this new age movement, the Palladians, Anunnaki, all that shit, right? Like, that they believe that we are headed into an ascension process, like that's what all of this is. This is like the collapsing of the old matrix, and we're heading into,
which would fit right into Bluebeam's hands, right? Like, or
100% it would. But in a sense of like the people that follow this would actually believe it. Like, it would not from like a religious stance. It would be like, this is like the fulfilling of the prophecy. And
that's how they would get it, though, right? Because they're going to try the religious people, the really religious people. They're not going to get them with alien stuff. They're going to have to get them with God stuff. You know what I mean? And they have the means to do that through the technology we talked about. The showing things, they're really going to get these new age people to buy into it.
Yeah. So there's this concept of the 12 original tribes, Earth stargates, and the cosmic power within. So there's these 12 stargates which align on the ley lines of Earth and create, that sort of like wavy pattern that on its side, if turned this way, would be the chakras.
So it's, the chakras of Earth, I guess.
Yeah. And these so I was just kind of like, okay, where are these apparent stargates, and is there any like significance geographically to where they're located and things that are happening in our world right now? So the 12 are Arizona in the US, Sarasota, Florida, Bermuda.
Oh, Artemis 2 flew over that.
Yeah. Giza, Egypt, Machu Picchu in Peru, Caucasus Mountains, Georgia, Armenia region, Lake Titicaca. Love it.
Can't not laugh.
Yeah. Xi'an, China. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but Lhasa, Tibet, Abadan, Iran. And so this is a really interesting one, because I was like,
Basra in Iraq.
Yeah. So this Abadan, Iran, which I looked it up, and it is like, it's basically like coastal. Like, it's right in the inlet here.
Yep.
Where's the Strait of Hormuz?
Right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
And then you look, so then
a lot of people said the whole Iraq war, not a lot of people, but some people said the Iraq war was not over oil or gold or anything. It was over a Stargate, right? It was over the Stargate in Al Basra.
Yeah.
And there's another one.
And so then with that being closed, and, and not allowing traffic to go through, that's what sort of triggered me to be like, okay, well, where, like, are any of these other areas, like, blocked off? Obviously Bermuda, we know that you can't really, that's like, more just like, don't go to the Bermuda Triangle. Giza, Egypt, like the main pyramids have been closed for maintenance.
Yeah.
that statement alone is hilarious. Like maintenance
for things that have been there for tens of thousands of years. We never had,
Yeah, same thing with Machu Picchu.
Yeah, you can't walk around as much anymore at Machu Picchu.
No, certain places.
All.
This spot in China,
Not going there. I imagine that's where the pyramids are in China. Is probably where that's located.
very close, and there's certain airspace that's been closed for like the last like 3 years.
Huh.
There, Vale of Pouzy, England. I don't know.
Never even heard of that place.
Me either.
And Montségur in southern France. That's the that's that. There's that mountain where they say there's a portal.
Yeah.
I can't. The name is escaped. Renly de Chateau.
Yeah.
I think that's where that is, right? Renly de Chateau.
Yeah. So there's significant in Sarasota, Florida. I don't know about that. Arizona, obviously, like there's
that's where some of the elites have supposedly built bunkers, right? Just around, not like around the Arizona-Texas border in the mountains there because of Stargates.
So yeah, it's a weird coincidence to me that like maybe there is something to this, in and even in a biblical sense. Obviously, this is framing it in the New Age kind of thing, but like, what if there is there's correlations that could be made between the biblical spacey alien stuff, or sorry, the biblical like angel and demon stuff to this New Age space alien, different races and stuff, and as well. And I watched, just happened to watch that Russell Crowe movie Noah.
Oh yeah.
That was released in 2014, and I was like half paying attention at first, and then it got kind of interesting because they really take the like Watcher Nephilim narrative in it and like kind of spin it on its head a little bit to where it really does have a very like New Agey feel to it.
Yeah.
It's all about like manifestation. It's all about like they all have like powers, healing powers, and all this stuff, right? That's very, yeah. And even the way they portray the Watchers, they're very like they're like the fallen angel thing, but they're very like alien. They're like these rock beings, you know. They're like it's just the way it's all portrayed. I was like, and the fact that it came out in 2014, couple years right before the QAnon stuff really kicked off, and all of this, and I just thought it was kind of interesting that they took that approach to that film, and it was again like a soft disclosure thing where I was like, huh, there's something to this.
For sure. And I believe things like that were said in that. Like, I think we did have those powers back at that time, and we've just devolved. We've done too much to fill our pleasure centers versus filling our third eye. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I don't, no pun intended. But you know, like I think like that's what's grown on society nowadays is where we get pleasure out of.
Yeah. And so I think my whole like, sort of, I know I'm like rambling or whatever, but it's my whole kind of unorganized thought on all of this is like, okay, I'm trying to make sense of what they're trying to do with this blue beam stuff and what it's meant to like replace, because it's meant to like push the world into this new direction and replace something, but is that thing that it's replacing actually like real or not? And so there's the whole theory of the overlay simulation theory kind of stuff, that this matrix that we live in now is collapsing. The veil is thinning, whatever you want to call it, that this overlay is collapsing. And before we actually come back to God and come back to this realization and see the world for what it is, they need to replace it with this new overlay. And before it fully collapses. And in order to do that, they had to like, inject people with this shit to break down your
spray the skies, get herb going. That's to establish the new matrix.
Yeah. To basically cancel out this ascension process, which, again, I don't buy into the whole Palladian, all that part of it. But if we are able to, if it is this devolution process, it's like, yeah, are we in this great race between their blue beam reality, their new world that they're trying to put in, and basically coming back to the original beings that we were meant to be and understand. And so there's like, because I always feel like there's truth peppered in everything. There has to be. They have to give you something, right? It has to feel believable because people's intuition is actually like quite strong. And if we have this like intuitive DNA that tells us when something is real or fake, it can't just all be bullshit. They have to put some truth in there so that, animal part of our brain that kind of is instinctual and knows what's going on connects to it somehow.
And so even if the Stargate messing with the Stargates isn't nefarious, why are they doing it?
Why are they doing it?
Yeah.
Right. Like, and obviously, in my mind, yeah. Well, if you knew
Is it to own them?
well,
Sorry, like it's probably
yeah,
it's to own. Because I think it's like I said, it's a good versus evil thing, and I think it is to control the ways and the means by which, for lack of a better term, fallen angels, will say, or the Watchers, like those of which there are good and bad, I would think too, right? Like 33% of them are supposed to be good.
yeah,
Also a weird number. 33% are supposed to be good, and which means that 66.6% are bad. Why would they make it that number? But anyway,
yeah,
I digress. Yeah, I think they're trying to take control of these portals the same way they're trying to take control of our bodies and put chips in us. Same way they've taken control of our vehicles, our phones, our like everything.
the
Like
same
your
way
dryer, your fridge. Like they have control over everything. And I think they want to use everything to their power to suck in as much bad as they can, because I think it's a battle for souls. And I think they want to shatter the Christ consciousness and all those old Abrahamic religions. um One is to either punish God for creating them, or to punish the people for following them. Or what I tend to believe is that, for the most part, although I know a lot of wars have been fought over religion, but for the most part, people who are deeply religious I find to be rather introspective and good people. You know what I mean? Who have good intentions and whatever. And I think they want to get rid of the good in the world and replace it with whatever you want, whenever you want.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And turn us into turn it into the technate, and turn us into half human, half robot. And this all fits with that.
yeah. And that's, yeah. So yeah, I mean, that was my big kind of realization with all of this is like, it is sort of like the race. It's not that like, it's not, oh yeah, Project Bluebeam is inevitable. It's like, do they get there in time? Because
Does it happen first? Like, can something happen where they don't even get to Bluebeam? Because
yeah,
is that what you're saying?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Are we in this race to like, did enough people say no to these shots? Did enough people have enough people woken up to everything yet? Have enough people, are we, is there infighting amongst
Yeah.
the people that are going to collapse, because that happens too. Like, look at the way Rome fell, right? It's you get these opposing ideas, you get people infighting, and it causes the empire to collapse from within. It doesn't necessarily even have to be the people that take it down. They take down themselves.
Well, and I think, because you brought it up, I think how Rome is a good way of looking at how Rome collapsed is a good comparison to how now is collapsing, because of what you said, but also because they completely fractured their belief system in society. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Jesus was around, their old gods were like, there was all these things going around, and I think times were good. And that whole, like, hard times create, was it hard times create good men, which create good times, which create weak men?
Something like that. Yeah.
And that we're in the weak men phase. Like and that's by design. The Serge talks about it, and people who influenced him talk about it. This whole filling our society with things that we don't actually need, to keep our eyes off the prize, and to keep us full of drugs and eating bad food and watching TV, and now the internet and your phones, right? It's all done to pry us away from what we're supposed to be.
Yeah. And so that Dr. Tao Braun guy, like, one of the things, again, like, you don't have to go for his like kill switch theory, but one of the things he says, even if this is the leaning into the blue beam, you know, that side of it, he says like, what do we do about it? So he's got these like 5 points. He's like, 1, if you're still in denial, slap yourself in the face. I'm not there to do it for you. 2, start empowering those that are trying to help you and have been warning you for years. And that's like,
That's
you know, when
yeah.
it comes to the, you know, like Chris Knowles shit talking this guy, it's like, okay, let's just see what we can actually take from this.
Yeah.
You know, let's stop putting down these people that are coming with warnings, you know?
Yeah. Regardless of where they're from, and even if they were given to him hypothetically, so it doesn't mean we shouldn't look at it and or not look at everything else he said. Because I thought of that when you mentioned that what Chris Knowles said, maybe he was on to it with everything else. Because Serge Monast writes a lot about everything else that's going on in the world. Like I mentioned, this blue beam stuff was kind of the last stuff he started talking about.
Yeah.
They fed that to him maybe because he was getting too close in the other areas,
Yeah.
right? Because that's another thing they do.
And then step 3 says demand accountability. There's only a small group of us doing this. And that's, you know, people are getting complacent. And I know in the last episode, I mentioned that we're the exhaustion part of it, right? And I'm super guilty of that too, where I like to just sort of like zone out and be like, well, if it's all fucked, it's all fucked. And like, when, you know, I'll just grow a garden, and which is part of it. You know, you have to kind of like take things into your own hands, but also like, yeah, demand accountability, demand answers. Stop, you know, oh, well, they're spraying the sky like assholes. Like, well, no, like there's things you can do about it. We can go like demand accountability. We can go demand that these things stop, that these programs stop. They're on government websites as actual plans. We can reach out and enough people be like, cut it the fuck out, you know?
There are people, and there are more people talking about that, the geoengineering now, and it, you know, even 5 years ago when you and I started talking about this, there were a lot of people who called me crazy even 5 years ago for talking about it.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's a lot more in the mainstream, and a lot more people that I know will agree that something's going on.
Yeah.
Like they can see it, feel it, taste it, touch it. Like it's real now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, you know, and don't memory hole it. Like,
Yeah.
just because again, we're being bombarded with stuff constantly, don't memory hole. And that's not to say you need to be a black pill doomer where it's just like,
No, that doesn't help either. And then you're giving them that loosh.
yeah,
That doesn't help.
yeah.
I know.
But it's like there's a level of awareness that you can have and apply to your life without, because yeah, that way, if they try every time they try and pull one of these things off and you say, and you just laugh in their face, the Artemis mission, right? There's enough people laughing at that they're they're painted themselves into a corner, man. They don't know what to do.
And that's not the reaction they want. Right? No, laughing is not the reaction they want. Or, yeah. Sorry, you have, what is it? One more there?
This one's kind of in tangent with that. It's demand an end to geoengineering and proposed projects, stop 6G and all this development, right? Like, which, yeah, we can do. And then move life to analog, group meetings in person, support local business and farms, less digital exposure, connect with life and nature again, rewild. And that's a big one. And again, I'm I guess sort of an elder millennial, but you know, I'm glued to my phone more than I should be. I work a job on a laptop. You know, I've got Wi-Fi. We're talking into microphones into the internet right now. So it's, you know, it's easier said than done, but you know, we can get together and talk. We can, you know, if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're like-minded, don't just listen to the show and not reach out to us. Reach out.
Yeah, we'd love to have you on. If you live on the island, you can even come on the show.
Yeah. You know, Greg from Higher Side Chats they do the THC meetups, and those are awesome, right? Like there needs to be more of that. There needs to be more of people just like gathering in pubs and bars again, like hanging out, community gardens, whatever you can do to like keep things real.
And it's to break that separation, right? Because they keep trying to fracture us into different groups by doing what he and you just mentioned.
Yeah.
You're breaking that. You're building a group instead of fracturing, right? You're building, and it might not be with like-minded people, because that's what the world used to be. Like the world was filled with, I hung out with tons of people I wasn't completely like-minded with, or them the same, right?
Yeah.
And it was the norm. Everyone just did that. That was fine. And everyone got along.
And I think this conspiracy community and stuff is very like is super guilty of that, where it's, you know, and that we played right into that hand where it's, I lost friends and acquaintances and stuff over the last 6 years of people that just like, whether they thought I was crazy or whether I just assumed that they thought I was crazy because of my beliefs and whatever. But it's like, and that's not to say, like people that took the shots didn't take the shots. Like that's sort of a moot point at this
Mhm.
juncture. Like, that both sides are going to need each other moving forward.
Mhm.
And I think that it's just, yeah, let's like break that divide. If you know where you went wrong in the past, just own up to it and like,
And people know where they went wrong.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
so,
So
and
that's I like that this guy actually had some solutions, you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's not just yeah. And it's not violent solutions. It's not
no, it's rewild,
yeah.
right? We're wild beings. Let's just be wild again.
The
Go outside.
So the William Guy Carr and we didn't talk, we'll save maybe him for another show, which I actually think would be a good idea because there's a
So,
lot on that. But something that he mentioned, and I'm only saying because he was a big influence on Serge Monast, is he in the first two couple of books that he writes, because he was a military guy, he's really angry and you can see it in his writing. And he talks about we need to stand up and rise up and do you know what I mean? Talking about the secret societies that are ruining our lives and running our lives. And this is in the 50s. He's talking about Adam Weishaupt and the Illuminati. And anyway,
mhm.
fast forward to his last book, which was done posthumously because he also died young, the same way as Serge Monast, or youngish. He was in his, I think he was 60 or 61. But in his book, he apologizes to all the readers, which I think is important, right? Like even at that age, everything he knows, he realized he made a mistake. And he said his mistake was he always looked at conscientious objectors as, for lack of a better word, pussies.
Mm.
And he now realizes that is the way. And that's something I would add to this too. In every way that you can be a non-conscientious or conscientious objector to everything. Like no violence, don't give them any energy, but just say I'm not doing that. No. And
Yeah,
that's it, right? You close that box, you keep that energy. They want that energy from you. They want you to be mad. They want you to be angry. Going and even protesting, right? Because this guy says that protesting maybe isn't the answer, actually,
yeah,
because they're feeding off of that energy. And then you get two groups bashing heads, and I've been to enough protests. No one's listening to anyone. You're not changing anyone's. People don't go to a protest on one side and then hear the other side's, you know what I mean, terms at the protests are like, well, fuck,
yeah.
they're right. That doesn't happen, right?
Yeah, this
It,
man on the street thing where you go and like these people are going to protest just to showcase how dumb people are.
yeah, and all of those protests in the William Guy Carr's books and in Serge's books as well, or Serge's documents talk about all those protests are done unorganically to cause people to fight and cause division and cause whatever. So yeah,
Yeah.
everything he mentioned and just non-compliance in
Yeah.
every way, shape, or form, government wise, don't comply with anything that
Yeah.
you don't have to.
Yeah.
And even when you have to, don't.
Yeah, man. If you listened this far in the episode, thank you for sticking with us because I know we were a little all over the place and there's like a lot of ideas going on and not a lot of
Yeah,
not a lot of direction to some of it,
that's
but
us, eh?
that's us, eh? Yeah.
But hey, it's us learning about things and sharing them with each other and the group.
Yeah, and quite honestly, like this opened my eyes so much from even the last episode. I know, I posted a clip from our last episode today where I call people idiots, and I kind of see the error of my ways and in how cynical I can get sometimes with all this stuff. Because, like, yeah, if this is the intent, and
Mm-hmm.
then like we need to kind of stop it in its tracks simply by not playing along, you know?
And not it, right? And not if blue beam happens, like take a breath. Another thing we mentioned with Joe, right?
Yeah.
And something that I think you and I have both learned through this process. Whatever goes on, whatever crazy shit they try to take a breath, think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To really decide what you think about it before you start looking online and seeing what other people think about it or what's everyone saying? You know what I mean? Here's what the expert, don't think about it yourself. Like break it down in your own brain. How does it make sense for you knowing what we've kind of shared today?
So if
I
you
think,
start hearing the voice of God and
right?
seeing shit coming down from the sky, take a breath. And that's all you new agers too. I know you sci-fi nerds, you want this shit deep down, but
Yeah.
come on, man.
Geeking out about it.
Yeah.
What do you think they'll make God's voice sound like? That's when we were talking about that earlier, that was the one I was curious about how they would make
It's Morgan Freeman. That's it.
Morgan. Yours would be Morgan Freeman, eh?
Well, no. I mean, that's what I
I
think.
think mine would be Gandalf.
Yeah.
I think I have Gandalf.
It'd be the like Hollywood British, but not British voice, like the every accent.
Not like not Michael Caine.
Yeah. But sort of that like innocuous, like British. Maybe it's British, but
maybe not.
Yeah.
He's from England. We keep saying he, could be a she.
Yeah.
We know it's gonna be he.
Yeah.
When they pipe it in. Who knows? And maybe by talking about all this stuff, and the more people talk about it, maybe it won't happen. And something another possibility, because I know we're getting to the end of the show. One possibility to think about too is that I think we kind of did touch on it, but that Project Bluebeam itself is a psyop. Everything to do with it's a psyop, right? To keep us from paying attention to all the other stuff they're doing, like in killing a bunch of people in the Middle East.
Yes.
That's a possibility. Last possibility that I'll throw out there, that this is all created by us in our own consciousness and our own imagination from movies and books and things that we have looked at and whatever. We're literally creating all of this in real time because
Manifesting it.
we have put it out there as a community. We are all connected. That's something that goes without saying. Whether not everyone can agree on everything, but I think anyone in our community now you have to agree that we're all connected.
Yeah.
Right. Like everything is. So, who's to say that we're not doing that to ourselves?
Yeah. And more than one thing can be true at once.
And that
it could be everything and everything.
Yeah. And nothing
all at the same time.
Because all realities are actually occurring at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's let the overlay collapse. Let's see what we're actually dealing with. Back to square one here. So
could you imagine? Does that mean crazy Mandela effects for the next continuing?
I mean,
discussed this in a few shows too. That would explain the Mandela effect.
Totally would.
Right? Yeah. And that's what I want to know. I want to know what the F is going on.
Yeah.
Because something's going on.
So, yeah. In the meantime, Sam Altman, cut the shit.
Yeah.
Enough. All right.
You know what you guys are up to with your quantum computing. Yeah. All right, man. Well, we'll do it.
Yeah. Let's call.
Got anything you want to add?
No, I'm happy spring has sprung. That's where I'm at with life.
20 degrees today.
Yeah, nice. It's nice outside, and I'm
20 degrees Celsius for our American.
That's like 1 billion degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah. It's warm on Vancouver Island in April. It's nice. Yeah, I have nothing. I think the only thing I wanted to add, just because I think it's important to get out, is that the Serge Monast guy because we talked about his death a couple times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is the story behind was it 2 months before he died, he was about to start publishing a book. So he came up with this Bluebeam stuff and all these different kind of manifestos, and he wanted to put it into a book and started working on that. He homeschooled his children. He had a child, I think a daughter was 7 and a son who was 9, both homeschooled because he didn't believe in the education system. And I don't think a lot of people, right? I think in the 90s, people would have been like, well, come on, man, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, the homeschool kids were the weirdos, right?
Whereas now they were all right? They were getting indoctrinated and whatever. Well, the Quebec police took his kids from him.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So he had his kids taken from him because they were homeschooled. He didn't have them for 2 months, and he got arrested by the police for some sort of weird thing that it's not even clear. There's no record of what he got arrested for. Spent the night in jail, went home the next day and died. And he died from a heart attack. They refused to do an autopsy on him. They just said it was a heart attack. And he was one of, if not the first person to talk about the idea of a heart attack gun, which he did in his Toronto Protocols 666.
Whoa.
He mentioned how they will kill scientists. They'll blackmail who they can, and whoever they can't blackmail, they'll kill.
Yeah.
And look what happened to him, and look what's went on with the Epstein files.
Yep.
So I just thought that was important. Like he gets a reputation as being crazy, but I think when you look into him, I don't think he was crazy. I think he was a man with a good heart, no pun intended there.
Yeah.
Who, you know what I mean? Just wanted the best for society and life and human beings and Quebecois, and
Yeah.
and he ended up paying the ultimate price, I believe, for speaking the truth. So anyways, that's where I will end it. Good
All
with
right.
that?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. This was fun. I hope it made sense. I hope we were able to connect some dots. And yeah, anyone, like I said, if you're out there and you want to chat with us, get in touch. And email us, comment, whatever. We want to have conversations, and we want to keep this thing going. So
Yeah, and that goes for if you disagree with us or agree with us or agree with some, or we will talk with anyone, and we just want to keep talking, keep chatting, keep the lines open.
You won't be the first person to call me retarded. So
not even today, probably.
No, and won't be the last.
Cool. All right. From the land of the high seas and the tall trees, I am Mike.
I'm Andrew.
Have a great night.
We will catch you next time.